Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar this morning. It's 9 o'clock, so we'll get going. My name is Olav Helland. I'm one of the co-founders at BeSure. I look at myself as a cloud architect and have worked a lot with Microsoft Cloud licensing over the years. And for those not familiar with BeSure, we're a Norwegian company helping organizations with identity visibility for all identities in their Microsoft 365 and Entra environments. And visibility into licensing is a part of that. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask them in the chat. We'll also be recording the webinar and share the recording and the slide deck with everyone afterwards. So the session today is called Microsoft 365 Licensing and a practical guide to what actually matters. We've split the agenda into 4 parts. First, we'll talk a little bit about some fundamentals on how a license is constructed. We'll cover the difference between subscription and the license and show you how SKUs, service plans, and assignments works. Then we'll take a special look at the upcoming pricing and packaging changes that Microsoft comes with in July and what they can mean in practice for you. And then we'll dig into what we think is the most common reasons why organization ends up being over-licensed. And finally, we'll jump a little bit into the BeSure application and look at that in practice, how you can get visibility to some of those common reasons. So let's just jump right into part 1. We'll start with how you buy a license. So when you want to buy a license, you first have to decide what commercial channel to use. You can either buy through an enterprise agreement if you are a large enough company, or you can also buy through a cloud service solution provider or CSP. Education and academic licenses have its own channel, and you can also buy directly from Microsoft by using the Microsoft customer agreement. So these are some of the channels. There are some others as well, but these are the most common ones. What you purchase is a subscription. So, and the subscription includes a SKU, meaning the product. We'll take a little bit take a look in more detail into that one in the next slide. But what's important is that a subscription have a term. So the term defines the length of the contract. So the most common ones are monthly, annual, and there are also some multi-year terms available for some of the SKUs. What to remember is that every term has an end or renewal date. And within the term, the prices are locked. So if there are any prices changing, they won't have impact on that subscription before they are renewed. So, and as for the quantity, you can always raise the quantity during, but you cannot reduce it before the renewal. So that's the subscription. And what's a license? So a license is more the operational object. So, and what you assign to users. You can have multiple subscriptions for the same license or SKU, but they will all end up in the same license, call it bucket in Entra ID, where you assign them from. So they do have many service plans. And these service plans can be enabled or disabled. If you want to turn something off, you can do that. And you need to assign the license. So you can either directly to a user or through a group membership. Quickly, what is a SKU? So a SKU is the commercial license unit you purchase. For example, Microsoft 365 E3, common one, using that as an example. And inside the SKU, there are multiple service plans. So each service plan represents kind of an individual workload, like Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, the different Defender components. And there are many, many more inside Microsoft E3. And when you assign a license, you assign the SKU, but technically what the user receives are the individual service plans inside that SKU. So, and you can, as I said before, you can enable and disable those individual service plans. Let's take a look at a more practical example. I'm using now Bshore as an example. We are not that big of a firm, so we're still using Business Premium, probably for a while more. And we assign licenses using a group called, okay, there, I lost my pointer, there it is, a group called LIC employees. This means that every employee automatically receives the license through group-based assignments. And as we can see here, Business Premium contains a lot of service plans or apps, as it's also called within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. If we take a look here, we can see that we have not checked two of these. It's the Kaisala and the Staff Hub, and that's intentional. So we don't use those in Bshore, so there's no reason for users to see them either in Microsoft 365. So that's why they are disabled. So it's the enable state here that defines the real user experience. So and a quick example there for you. Now it's time to move over and take a look at the different suites and bundles or plans, many names for this. Start by using Microsoft 365 as an example. E3 and E5 are sold as single SKUs, but structurally they are composed of 3 separate product families. Those that have been around a while probably remember that we used to only use Office 365, and that is the collaboration and productivity product within Microsoft 365. EMS is for identity, security, and device management. And the last component is Windows, and it's more of a Windows upgrade product. So if you have Windows Enterprise E3 or E5, your Windows Professional operating systems will be upgraded to Enterprise Edition. So while it's one commercial license, it's built from independently licensed components. I have a few references down here. So Microsoft do have a comparison table of what's included in the different suites and licenses, but it's hard to get hard to understand. So I personally like using a third-party tool called M365 Maps to get a better visualization of what's included in what. So let's spend a minute to take a look at what that looks like. So this is a free tool from by someone called Aaron Dinich. He actually works in Microsoft, but this is not regarded as official Microsoft information, but it's frequently updated and a lot used by the community. So now I open the Enterprise Microsoft 365 Enterprise overview. It's a lot, as you can see. I'll try to zoom a little bit. So you can see here what's in Microsoft 365 E3 and what more you will get if you go for the E5 instead. And we can see the three horizontal layers here are the same as we touched in the previous slides, like EMS, Office, and Windows. My point to make is that if you want to learn what's included here, spend some time looking at this. You can say every tile here more or less represents a service plan. But what I would recommend taking a look at are these bundles, and maybe in particular the first one here called Defender Suite. So if you are on, say, E3 today, considering E5 step up and going with the full E5, that's quite a bit of money. And if you're not ready to use the kind of what's in the Purview suite on the compliance part, you might want to get the components in the Defender suite, like the Entra ID Premium step up, and yeah. But that's just something to be aware of, and use this to know what's included in what. That's my point today. Finally, on the fundamentals, we need to talk about the rules. So Microsoft do have some rules. And first, like the Microsoft product terms, this is what you are allowed to do, right? These are the universal license terms, and it defines what you are legally allowed to do. I'll have one example here, and that is this is where you can find the information saying that, okay, if I reassign a license, it has to be 90 days since I last assigned the same license. So that's why you can't like use the same license for people coming and going all the time. And also this is where you can get the rules for who can have a frontline license or not. So either they need to work with a smaller screen than 10.9 inches, or they have to share their primary work device with others, frontline workers, during or across shifts. So that's an interesting one. So if you wonder about anything on products and what you're allowed to do, the answer is usually found in the product terms. The service descriptions, on the other hand, they explain the functionality within all the services in Microsoft 365. I have included the links here so you can look at itself yourself later. And the third thing I wanted to mention are the security and compliance descriptions. These describe kind of the tenant-wide security services. So many of the security components in the licenses, if you have one licenses available in the tenant, the functionality is technically available to apply to all users. There's no link between a user having the license and you being able to technically assign the functionality. So this is where it's where you need to scope actually. So let me give you one practical example. If you have Entra ID Premium, that's one of these tenant-wide services. So if you purchase like E5 licenses for only a portion of your users, your tenant technically gets the Enter ID P2 level. So you features like PIM and risk-based conditional access become available in the tenant. And technically, you can configure those policies for all users, but to stay compliant, you're only allowed to apply those features to users who are licensed for that level. So what you see in the admin portals are what is technically possible, and the product terms and the service descriptions here, or security descriptions here, they define what's contractually permitted to do. So keep that in mind. So we looked at Microsoft 365 being a layered and modular product. It's not flat. We looked at a SKU consists of service plans, and we also touched that the licensing and configuration operate at the user level. So quickly ahead to the next topic, which is the upcoming price changes from Microsoft. For this part, I'm going to use some slides provided by Microsoft. So let's take a look. This is for the Microsoft 365 suites, E3, E5, and Business Premium, the most common ones. So what Microsoft is doing here is that they have these earlier or previously separate add-ons. So for the E3, they include some Intune plan add-on, remote help for Intune, and some advanced analytics. The most interesting one here is probably this one, which is the Microsoft Defender for Office Plan 1, which you previously could buy as a standalone. This is the plan that contains like safe links and safe attachments that many companies use and many have bought as an add-on earlier. As for E5, they get the full Intune suite add-on and also some security co-pilot features. And Business Premium, not much change, a little bit more email storage, but no price increase. And the prices for these core suites increased by $3 for E3 and E5. So what's important to notice here is that these new capabilities will be added to these suites in July, regardless if you have renewed your license or not. But the price adjustment won't happen before your next renewal. So the key takeaway here is if you have any of these add-ons today, bought separately, after July, they will probably be included in your E3 or E5 suites. I'm just adding this to the slide deck for not going to go through this, but this is a summary of all the packaging product changes. Skipping to the next one, which is the prices, all the price changes. Quickly look at the most interesting ones. Most significant increase is the frontline licenses, up to 33% increase, even more if you don't have Teams included. And the percentages for E3 and E5 are here. So bring on the calculators to see how this can impact your next year. Well, what this shows that we cannot avoid these prices increasing, so it gets even more and more important or more important than ever to optimize and right size your licensing. And that's what we're going to look into now. And we're going to look at what is the most common patterns of being over licensed in Microsoft 365. gonna list these, and we're gonna talk about why it happens a little bit later. So users that never have signed in are being licensed. Believe it or not, it happens. Inactive users still hold premium licenses. Disabled users remain licensed. Test users, shared mailboxes, meeting rooms, or administrators, they hold licenses unnecessarily. Users are licensed at a higher tier than required. Maybe a user has an E3 license but should have been a frontline worker. So there are some unused standalone licenses. Someone needed Project or Visio or Power BI sometime, but they stopped using it, but still hold a license. There is something we call overlapping licenses. So if a user is assigned 2 different licenses with overlapping functionalities or service plans, that's like if you have E5 and you haven't removed the Power BI Pro when you got upgraded to E5, that's an unnecessary license to have. And finally, there can be you can have licenses on stock that are unassigned because you bought too many, maybe on your last renewal. So this is typically something we see with most organizations that we work with. It's not, but why does it happen? That's something we're going to take a quick look at now. So typically in a business, you have some business system, right? It's either you have some HR systems, large organizations might have an identity and access management tool, and you create some role models. And based on that, you get some users provisioned to Entra ID, and there are licenses assigned to the users. But these license models that you build, they are often built on assumptions, right? You create them the way you think they should work, but in the organization, the real usage often differs from that. And in addition to that, usage evolves. People move, get new roles, so there's a drift. And there is limited visibility to see this overall picture. We can see what licenses have been assigned, and we might see some activities in different portals, but there's no unified view. So this feedback loop on from what's actually there to adjust the processes in the business system is often missing. Key takeaway: prices increase from July. Visibility is key to optimize your licensing. And finally, it's time to jump into my demo. Time is running fast, so we don't have much time left, but we'll take a look. And then I also need my, there we go. So this is the Bishar app. Let's take a real quick one, just very briefly here on the main dashboard. We do have some licensing KPIs. For this demo environment, we quickly can see that there is money to be saved, like well above 100K NOK per month. And it's into these 3 different areas that we already talked about. Licenses you haven't assigned to anyone, licenses assigned to inactive users, and licenses assigned to disabled users. You can take a look at more detailed overview in the licenses overview. And on the right-hand side here, we have the full breakdown per license on the savings potential. And again, we can see it's unassigned licenses, inactive users with licenses, and disabled users with licenses. And this is the cost we saw on the main dashboard. We can see that E3 and E5 security is the biggest portion. And if we wanted to drill down into that and see who those users are, we could use the inactive and disabled users report and very quickly see that these are the users. We can take out, we can report per department or whatever other property you wanted to see, but this brings visibility to this topic of inactive and disabled users. Quickly, the overlapping licenses shows what we talked about there. That can be if you have E3 and F3, then it's flagged here, and you can decide which one you should keep. I'm gonna actually show something new now, but we don't have that in the Bishop demo data, so I'm gonna switch to this report. We also have a new feature which looks for standalone licenses like Power BI Premium or Power BI in general, Visio project, those types of licenses that haven't been used, and we're flagging those based on activity in the sign-in log and using some AI to score if it's likely that the user need to keep the license or not. So some recommendations there on those types of standalone licenses that sometimes end up being unused. So the user here itself isn't inactive, but he's not using the actual license. And we'll spend 1 minute also on renewal. When you're going to renew your subscriptions, right, it's often a date. And if you want to go back in time and look for historic license assignments, we have a license history report, so you can look for. It will only go as far back as you have been running Bishore, but if there are any spikes or trends over the year, you can monitor it in this report. And that ties back to the subscription overview, which we talked about the renewal dates for the products. So if you know when you have your true up or renewal, you should work towards that with all the common patterns for being over licensed and trying to reduce the over licensing and free up licenses that you can reduce when your renewal is up. And this gives a picture of the value that you can release if you have licenses to reduce on renewal. That was the demo. What we covered today was how these Microsoft 365 licenses are constructed. We looked at the pricing and packaging changes that comes this summer, common reasons why over licensing happens. It's tied to how drift accumulates over time, and the importance of having visibility to reduce that over licensing before your next renewal, which becomes even more important now that prices are increasing. So that was what we had today. Are there any questions in the chat?
There are quite a lot of questions. I don't know if you have access to them or you want me to read them up for you.
I'll just find my Teams. Yeah, so do you share your presentation? Yes, we are. Okay, please zoom in a little bit. Sorry about that.
There is also a separate Q&A place.
Yeah, I'll take a quick look at that as well. So the US dollar and NOK exchange rates, yeah, that's correct. Those were positive, like from the 1st of February, I believe it was around 7% decrease. So that's good. You never know. Microsoft does that semi-annually, so look out for if the US dollar weakens and even more, it can get even more lowered, right? And the Q&A. Oh, the EDU licenses as well. Good question. I don't think so yet, but let us check that, and we can include the correct answer when we send out the email afterwards. From what I know, the Business Premium won't be getting the Intune Suite add-ons. Yeah, the last one there, the 7 days grace period on CSP. That's correct. I read that myself. So they are not removing the grace period, but I believe they are changing it to be 30 days. So you will have more time than before to adjust if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just need to pay for it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we had today. We're 1 minute past.
And we have one question about complex to choose plans for the organization. Will you give recommendation and understand what's actually being used? And that is something that we will provide, and it's on our roadmap to give individual advices based on each user's actually usage. So meaning that we can say that Björn should have this F3 license because of his usage. And then you can actually assign and buy the proper license packages. But this is something that will come. It's on a roadmap.
All right. Thank you everyone for attending and staying the full webinar. So have a great weekend when time comes, and see you again at a later occasion. Bye-bye.